News. Very pleased to say that Vernal Scott, author and diversity consultant, joins me. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Lots of newspapers, not a great deal of news. So let's start off with something fairly light and then dig a little deeper. The Irish Independent. Child minding is making grandparents depressed.
Yes, well, they should try, you know, I'm not sure what the answer is, but, you know, children are, you know, they take up your energy. And I think as we, you know, get older, grandparents expect to relax and the rest of it. This article is talking about grandparents being stressed out by looking after their grandchildren too often.
But we're talking about this because parents are facing crippling childcare costs.
Yes.
What do? They rely on family. It's sort of the issue with parents looking after your parents in their old age has been flipped in reverse.
Yes, you know, but I think that I think in the public's psyche, you know, grandparents and their grandchildren are always happy together.
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be, and I think what the story is saying is that you can overdo it. When you get older, you need to relax a bit, and if you're being burdened by childcare responsibilities, because they've already done that with their own children. So to find that you're older and having to look after your grandchildren all the time is proving to be a bit too much for these grandparents.
Many cultures look at the West now and go, we can't understand why you let your kids get looked after by total strangers, childcare, and they also can't understand why we aren't looking after the elder generation. Do you think this is something that is happening particularly in the West that we should be doing something about, or what?
Well, you're right. I mean, there are other cultures where there's much more in family support, be it for the older generation or the younger. But, you know, over here in the indigenous population, people have to work, and childcare costs are enormous. That said, grandparents have a right to a more relaxed life as they get older, and I think if they're being overburdened, this article is clearly saying that the actual parents of the children need to actually find another way of supporting their children other than the grandparents, because grandparents have a right, I think, to relax as well.
It seems like the days of just one parent going to work and one being the homemaker seems to be over.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the Jerusalem Post. Russia lifting this 5-year ban on supplying Iran with this anti-aircraft missile system. It's noted in the Jerusalem Post clearly because they say it's going to be impacting them.
Yes, and, you know, there's been significant progress, as we all know, you know, because of the negotiations between Iran and America, historic negotiations. Israel was always going to complain about it. Russia has seen an opportunity to come in and earn some money. You know, to their credit, 5 years ago, when Russia could have supplied the same missile defense system, it joined the world community and said, no, we're not going to do that. Now that these negotiations have made some progress, it's saying, well, there's no reason now not to supply Iran.
It's no longer necessary in light of the framework agreement. But Israel aren't accepting that at all. They're saying, oh, no, 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 this is just part of the whole thing about them getting nuclear weapons, them getting an anti-aircraft missile system.
Yes, yes. I mean, Israel is bound to say that. I think if we sell grapes to Iran,
they're going to make wine with it.
They're going to make wine with it, which is going to fuel, you know, the missiles that's going to attack Israel. You know, I think it's good progress. Israel will quite rightly, understandably, make noises, but I think this is progress, and we should see it as that.
Do you think the nuclear discussions are heading down the right track? Could this be derailed? It's not in the bag.
Yes, I don't think it will be derailed. I think that the monitoring regime that was agreed as part of the way forward with Iran and America last week, I think is strong evidence that Iran is not going to be able to develop nuclear weapons. That said, I think it's important that Israel keeps the pressure up, but I also think it's important for progress to be made and for the world to become a much more harmonious place. You nuclear weapons exist. We can't undo them. What we can do, though, is make sure that they're managed in such a way that they are never used. At least
it's
we
like
can
a permanent
hope that.
stalemate over the last however many decades.
Yes, but I do think that Israel, I think itself needs to, get involved in negotiations where instead of just making understandable noises, it's part of a more harmonious way forward.
Let's move on. Business day in South Africa. Get a grip on power supply. South Africa's warned. We've been talking about Eskom and all the issues there for a long time. Now the World Bank's wading in and kind of pointing out that if they don't sort this out, big problems lie down the road. This is now getting serious. This isn't just a local power problem.
Yes, you can't really make significant progress when the electricity keeps getting cut off. It's a problem, and I think that it needs the powers that be, to get involved and make sure that there's a way forward where people can have confidence in the electricity supply. It's a basic need.
Pretty random that Johannesburg Power, as one of the suppliers, can't collect 30% of the power that it supplies.
Yes.
That money should be going into the system. Yeah. Let's have a look at the British Times. 100 severe dead. We covered it earlier.
Yeah.
Why now? It sounds like we've just got thousands of people desperately trying to get into Europe, and it just seems to be going in waves.
Yes. Well, what it's telling us, James, is that where people are willing to risk their lives in that way, in such huge numbers. I mean, if we look at the numbers that were killed to this point last year, it's 4 times as many have died now. We have to share the wealth. We have to look at where people are coming from and try and put the situation right there so that people aren't this desperate. You've got to say to yourself, well, for me to decide to risk my life, my child's life, by taking these boats that eventually sink, things must be pretty bad at home. So it will take, I think, a joined up effort. I don't think it should just be the Italians that should take the burden.
They've been very vocal saying that this isn't something
absolutely.
We should do.
If these people were coming to Britain would want to get support from the rest of Europe. We've got to share the burden, but also we have to look at why this problem exists in the first place.
A little bit longer. We've got Wall Street Journal in the Asian edition, US stepping up support to battle the Yemen rebels. We spoke to John Cookson earlier about it. What's your take on what's going on in that part of the world?
Well, there's just so much chaos, in that region. And I think that what's missing is an almost like a United Nations effort where there's joined up agreement about a way forward covering the whole of that region. You've got ISIS, you've got these rebels, you've got Boko Haram, you've got all of this chaos, and there doesn't seem to be a clear strategy, James, about the way forward that is going to reduce that chaos and find a way forward. So all of this,
we've got so many
disparate things,
teams pulling in different directions as well. So is that possible?
There's that, and then in the background you've got Russia on one side, and you've got America on the other side, and then you've got Israel. There's a lot of ingredients for this chaos to get worse. What we need is an international joined-up strategy that looks at all the different elements and the outcomes that we want to achieve and who can actually get us there. But this continuing chaos is no good for anybody.
Vernal Scott, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much.